The moment that entitled HOA President's BMW scraped against my harvester, I knew she'd just handed me the keys to her own destruction. 40,000-pound combine cutting corn. White BMW drives straight into my path. Scrape. Metal screams. Her luxury car just hit my harvester blade. She jumps out, waving her hands at my machine towering above her. I'm sitting in my driver's cabin, phone out, recording everything. Big mistake, Brenda. She lost her car, her power, $30,000. All because this entitled suburbanite picked a fight with the wrong farmer. Want to know how one scrape destroyed an HOA tyrant? Let's go. What would you do if some HOA Karen tried to block your harvest on your own land? Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Bonus points if you've dealt with HOA nightmares. My name's Jake Hartwell, third-generation farmer on 240 acres of Indiana corn country. 20 years I've worked this soil my grandfather left me. Wife Sarah, 2 kids, barely profitable farm, but it's home. Then 3 years ago, Meadowbrook Estates sprouted up next door like weeds. Suddenly I had neighbors who wanted rural charm without the rural reality. Meet Brenda Ashworth, 52, ex-corporate HR, HOA president with a God complex. Pearl white BMW, designer everything, calls my life's work that lifestyle choice. The kind of woman who moved to farm country to escape city problems, then spent every day trying to turn it back into the city. The war started over my access road. For 80 years, my family's used the same dirt path to reach our back fields. It's in the deed legal easement rights from 1943. But now it crosses Brenda's precious HOA common area, and she decided my tractors were damaging the pristine landscape. Picture this. I'm loading fertilizer bags when she click-clacks over in heels, clipboard ready. The smell of diesel fuel and fresh manure hangs in the morning air. She wrinkles her nose like I'm personally offending her existence. "This ends today, Mr. Hartwell," she announces, waving papers. "Your agricultural vehicles are destroying our entrance. Use the highway route, 4 extra miles, busy traffic, harvest trucks crossing during rush hour, pure insanity. Lady, my grandfather built this road before your HOA was even a bad idea. We'll see about that. I have connections at City Hall. Classic Karen move, when facts fail, threaten mysterious connections. But Brenda wasn't done. She launched a full assault. Noise complaints about my 5 a.m. chores, petitions about industrial farming hazards. She actually set up a folding chair at my access road, playing Checkpoint Charlie with every piece of equipment. The crunch of gravel under her chair legs became the soundtrack to my mornings. She'd sit there with her umbrella, taking photos, filling out violation forms like she was documenting war crimes. My neighbor Jim couldn't take it anymore. "Brenda," he called out one morning, "you know what the difference is between you and Jake? He feeds people. You just feed drama." Her face went tomato red, but she kept scribbling. The harassment escalated. Anonymous complaints to the county about environmental hazards, social media posts about my unsafe practices. She even contacted the school board about Sarah's conflict of interest teaching kids while married to a problematic farmer. Then came the ultimatum, an official HOA letter demanding I cease incompatible agricultural operations on my own property, complete with threats of daily fines. Sarah found me in the barn that night, staring at their legal nonsense, the sweet smell of hay mixed with my rising anger. "Jake, this is harassment. We fight back." "How?" She's got the whole HOA board scared. "You're a farmer. You know patience. Research everything. Build your case. Smart woman, my wife." Right then, I realized something. Brenda thought she was hunting me. But farmers know the difference between predator and prey, and this predator was about to discover she'd been stalking the wrong target. I decided to plant seeds and wait for harvest. But this crop would be special evidence, documentation, legal ammunition. Here's what entitled suburbanites never understand about country people. We don't fight loud and fast. We fight quiet and thorough. The autumn air carried the scent of dying leaves and ripening corn. Somewhere in that smell was the promise of harvest season. And Brenda Ashworth was about to learn what happens when you declare war on a man who knows how to reap what others sow. Time to show this city girl how we handle problems in farm country. Week before harvest, Brenda escalated to full-blown warfare. I'm talking military-style surveillance operation. She stationed herself at my access road entrance every morning at 5 a.m. sharp, complete with folding chair, umbrella, and enough paperwork to choke a bureaucrat. Her agricultural vehicle monitoring station, that's what she actually called it, looked like a one-woman border checkpoint. Clipboard full of violation forms, digital camera, even a little cooler with bottled water because apparently harassing farmers is thirsty work. The smell of coffee from her thermos mixed with diesel exhaust as I fired up my John Deere that first morning. She waved me down like a traffic cop. "Hold on there, Mr. Hartwell. I need to document this vehicle for community safety records." "Lady, it's a tractor, on my own road. Your alleged road crosses HOA property. I'm conducting a safety audit." She snapped photos of my tractor like it was evidence at a crime scene. Model number, license plate, timestamp. The whole theatrical production. The metallic click of her camera shutter became my new wake-up alarm. But here's the thing about farmers, we're methodical people. While Brenda was playing pretend police, I was doing real homework. That weekend, I drove to the county courthouse. You know, that musty smell of old government buildings, paper, dust, and decades of bureaucracy? I spent Saturday morning breathing it in, digging through property records in the basement archives. The clerk, Mrs. Henderson, remembered my grandfather. "Jake, honey, what's all this about? Someone giving you trouble over the old access road?" "HOA president thinks she can block my easement." She laughed, actually laughed. "Child, your granddaddy's easement is 30 feet wide. I helped file the original paperwork when I was just starting here." 30 feet. I'd been using maybe 12 feet of it my whole life, trying to be neighborly. But I remembered something my dad once told me when I was 15. "Son, property easements are like family names. They never die and they transfer. With the land, no matter who buys it. Always know what's yours." Monday morning, I hired county surveyor Bill Morrison to mark the exact boundaries. Cost me $300, but watching Brenda's face when those bright orange stakes appeared, worth every penny. Here's where it got beautiful. Those stakes didn't just mark my road access. They ran straight through her precious rose garden. Turns out Brenda had planted her Welcome to Meadowbrook Estates flower bed partially on my legal easement. Her monitoring station? Also trespassing on my 30-foot right-of-way. Tuesday morning, she was waiting with her chair and clipboard when I pulled up. The crunch of gravel under my tires seemed extra satisfying. "What are those orange stakes doing in our landscaping?" she demanded, her voice hitting that pitch only entitled suburbanites can achieve. "County survey markers, ma'am. Turns out my easement's 30 feet wide, not 12. You've been camping in the middle of my legal right-of-way." Her face cycled through confusion, anger, then pure panic. "You can't just destroy our flower beds." "I didn't destroy anything. The county surveyor marked legal boundaries based on my grandfather's 1943 deed. Same deed that's been on file since before your parents were born." "This is harassment. I'm calling an emergency HOA board meeting." "Go ahead. But you might want to relocate your surveillance operation. You're currently trespassing on my easement." She packed up faster than a circus leaving town. Her folding chair collapsed with a satisfying metallic snap. That afternoon, Jim texted me. "Saw Brenda marching around with measuring tape and calculator. She looks like she swallowed a lemon sideways." Thursday's emergency HOA meeting was theater at its finest. Sarah and I didn't attend. We weren't members, but small-town gossip networks are more efficient than the internet. Brenda tried convincing the board to challenge my survey, claiming I was weaponizing property law to terrorize the community. Problem was, 3 board members remembered my grandfather personally. They knew exactly what those orange stakes meant. Reality check, delivered survey grade accurate. Friday morning brought sweet silence. No monitoring station. No clipboard queen. Just Brenda's BMW parked at the absolute edge of my access road, her sitting inside glaring at my orange stakes like they'd personally insulted her mother. The autumn sun glinted off her windshield as I drove past in my tractor. The scent of fresh-cut grass from HOA landscaping mixed with the earthier smell of my farmland's suburbia meeting agriculture, but only one side had law on its side. Through my rear-view mirror, I watched her exit her car and walk to my survey stakes. She stood there calculating, probably wondering how much of her landscaping budget had been wasted on my property. That's when I knew this was just round 1. Entitled people don't learn from being wrong, they just get more creative about being wrong. The question wasn't whether she'd retaliate. It was how spectacularly she'd screw up next time. Brenda's revenge came at 6 a.m. Monday, a county noise inspector at my door with official clipboard and measuring equipment. "Mr. Hartwell, multiple complaints about industrial farming operations violating residential quiet hours." I nearly spit out my coffee. Industrial farming? This family corn farm's been here since 1943. We've received several reports about machinery noise before 7 a.m. disturbing Meadowbrook Estates residents. Several reports. One woman versus 80 years of farming history. The smell of bacon from Sarah's breakfast skillet mixed with my rising irritation as this bureaucrat tested decibel levels on my perfectly normal John Deere. While he was playing with his sound meter, Brenda launched her media blitz. She'd created Concerned Citizens of Millbrook County on Facebook, posting daily photos of what she called agricultural pollution, literally just normal farm dust on dry autumn days. Her masterstroke post went viral locally. Dangerous industrial farming threatening our children. Toxic dust clouds. Heavy machinery operated without safety oversight. When will officials protect families from agricultural harassment? The comments split perfectly. Newer residents panicking, older locals defending reality. Mrs. Patterson, 40-year resident, wrote back, "Brenda, that's corn dust. It's been here longer than you. Maybe move somewhere without farms." But some suburbanites were buying her narrative. Tuesday morning, Sarah showed me her phone over breakfast. The crunch of toast seemed extra loud in the tension. "Honey, she's got 12 people convinced you're running some kind of toxic waste operation." That's when I remembered advice from my extension agent years back. In farm disputes, documentation beats emotion every time. I'd thought it was overkill then. Now it felt prophetic. I went full documentation mode. Security cameras at every access point. Time-stamped activity logs. Photos showing normal dust levels. Weather data correlating with atmospheric conditions. Then I researched Indiana's right to farm laws. Turns out, if your agricultural operation was established first, newer residents can't claim nuisance later. The law specifically protects farmers from exactly what Brenda was attempting. Wednesday morning brought escalation. 3 orange traffic cones blocking my access road with an official-looking sign reading, "Road closed, safety, inspection, HOA board order." The metallic scrape of cone on gravel echoed across the subdivision as I moved them aside, cameras rolling. Brenda materialized like she'd been hiding in bushes. "You can't remove official safety equipment. This is my legal easement. Those cones are trespassing. The HOA board voted for temporary safety closure during harvest. The HOA has zero authority over my easement, and blocking agricultural access is criminal interference in Indiana." Her face drained color. Criminal. She hadn't researched that far. "You're bluffing. HOAS, control common areas. This isn't common area. It's my family's easement since 1943. Want to see the survey again?" For the first time, doubt crept into her eyes. She was realizing she might have crossed a legal line. Here's where it gets interesting. That afternoon, my phone rang County Sheriff's Department. "Mr. Hartwell, Deputy Martinez, got a complaint about road blockades and agricultural harassment. Someone's filed formal charges. Need you to come in for statement." My heart jumped. Had Brenda actually called law enforcement on me? "Deputy, what kind of charges?" "Criminal interference with agricultural operations. Complainant says someone's been systematically blocking farm access roads and filing false reports. You the victim or perpetrator here?" Beautiful. Someone else had reported Brenda's road blockade as criminal activity. My cameras had documented everything perfectly. "I'm the farmer deputy. Been getting harassed by HOA president who doesn't understand property law." "Ah, yeah, we get these suburban farm conflicts more often now. Bring your documentation, we'll sort this out." Thursday morning, I drove to the sheriff's office with my evidence folder. The smell of coffee and old leather chairs filled the waiting room. Deputy Martinez was a no-nonsense guy who understood rural issues. "Mr. Hartwell, looks like you've got yourself a classic case of suburban overreach. Your documentation's excellent. We're opening an investigation into agricultural harassment." What does that mean? Means if someone's systematically interfering with legal farming operations through false complaints and physical blockades, they're looking at criminal charges. The autumn air felt different driving home. Crisper, cleaner. Like the smell of justice mixed with ripening corn. Brenda had wanted to escalate this to law enforcement. "Careful what you wish for, lady." Her BMW was parked at the edge of my access road when I got back, her sitting inside making phone calls. Probably to her lawyer, or her husband, or whoever suburban people call when their harassment campaigns backfire. Through my windshield, I watched her end a call and stare at my farmhouse. Even from 50 yards away, I could see the calculation in her posture. This wasn't over. Desperate people do stupid things, and Brenda was about to get very desperate. Friday morning, Brenda went nuclear. Channel 8 news van pulled up to my driveway at 7 a.m. "Ma'am, you called about agricultural terrorism?" The reporter, Jessica Torres, looked skeptical from the start. "Absolutely. This man is using industrial farming as a weapon against families." Brenda gestured wildly at my John Deere sitting peacefully in the barn. "Toxic dust clouds, intimidation tactics, deliberate harassment of suburban residents." I watched from my kitchen window, coffee growing cold, as this woman destroyed her credibility on live television. The smell of Sarah's bacon mixed with the sweet satisfaction of watching someone hang themselves with their own rope. "How long has this farm operated here?" Jessica asked. "That's irrelevant. Children's safety comes first. But if farming predates the subdivision, are you taking his side?" "This is media bias." Brenda's voice hit that pitch that makes dogs howl. Jessica exchanged glances with her cameraman. They packed up after 8 minutes of Brenda ranting about agricultural conspiracies and farming terrorism. The news van left without even asking for my comment, but Brenda's humiliation only made her more dangerous. Saturday morning, I found my access road completely blockaded. Not just Cone's professional sawhorses with yellow caution tape, official-looking signs reading "Road closed by order of Millbrook County HOA." The metallic clanking of equipment installation at dawn had woken the entire subdivision. My security cameras captured the whole midnight operation. Brenda directing 3 other people like a construction foreman, everyone wearing reflective vests to look official. The level of premeditation was stunning. Time for my nuclear option. I'd found something beautiful in my legal research. Indiana Code 32-30-6 makes agricultural interference a serious felony. Anyone who willfully interferes with agricultural operations faces up to $10,000 fines plus civil damages. Blocking farm access? That's textbook agricultural interference. Saturday afternoon, I visited Martha Hendricks, the agricultural attorney Jim recommended. Her office smelled like old law books and righteous anger. "Jake, this is Agricultural Harassment 101. Your documentation is prosecution ready. What's my next move?" "Let them keep escalating while we build the criminal case. Desperate people make stupid mistakes." She was right. Sunday night at 3 a.m., my trail cameras caught Brenda's stupidest mistake yet: motor oil. She'd poured an entire quart of Valvoline near my equipment staging area, creating fake evidence of environmental contamination. The acrid petroleum smell mixed with morning dew as I surveyed her handiwork Monday morning. But here's where it gets beautiful. Within 2 hours, she'd called the county environmental office reporting hazardous chemical spills from agricultural operations. The inspector, Dave Richardson, took one look at the obviously planted evidence. "Mr. Hartwell, this oil pattern's all wrong for equipment leaks. Someone poured this deliberately. Got security footage?" Dave watched my 3 a.m. video of Brenda playing environmental terrorist and whistled low. "That's criminal environmental fraud. We're pressing charges." Meanwhile, her Facebook crusade had exploded to 60 members demanding agricultural justice. Her posts grew more unhinged daily. Toxic farming weapons disguised as tractors, and chemical warfare against suburban families. The farming community fought back. Jim organized a photo campaign showing historical images of our area when it was all farmland. Local farmers shared modern safety standards, agricultural protection laws, environmental compliance records. But Brenda had saved her most desperate move for last. Wednesday afternoon, 2 state environmental inspectors showed up with federal paperwork. "Mr. Hartwell, we're investigating reports of Clean Air Act violations, soil contamination, and hazardous material storage." My heart sank. State inspectors meant serious business. The bureaucratic smell of government forms filled my kitchen as they explained someone had filed detailed complaints alleging federal environmental crimes. 4 hours of testing later soil samples, air quality measurements, equipment inspections, chemical storage review, they delivered their verdict. "Mr. Hartwell, your operation exceeds all federal standards. You're actually cleaner than required." Inspector Williams paused. "However, we found evidence of fraudulent contamination designed to frame your farm. The oil spill was clearly staged. What happens now?" "Federal environmental fraud charges. Whoever did this is looking at serious prison time." That evening, Deputy Martinez called with an update. "Jake, your neighbor just graduated to federal charges. Environmental fraud, filing false federal reports, agricultural terrorism. She's facing 5 to 10 years. The autumn sun set over my cornfields, casting golden light across acres of grain nearly ready for harvest. The sweet smell of ripening corn mixed with the satisfaction of watching justice finally catch up with entitled stupidity. But something in my gut said Brenda had one final desperate move coming. Because when people face federal prison time, they don't surrender quietly. They go down swinging. Thursday morning, Eleanor Walsh dropped a bomb that changed everything. The 73-year-old retired accountant had been digging through HOA financial records public information she'd requested as a concerned homeowner. She spread the papers across my kitchen table like she was dealing cards in a high-stakes poker game. "Jake, honey, your neighbor's been stealing." The smell of Sarah's fresh coffee mixed with the satisfaction in Eleanor's voice as she pointed to a line item. "Legal consultation services, agricultural dispute resolution, $15,000 in 6 months. That's a lot of money to harass one farmer," Sarah observed. "Gets better. All payments went to Ashworth Property Solutions, LLC. Eleanor's eyes twinkled with the joy of catching a thief red-handed. "Guess who owns that company?" My stomach dropped. "Brenda's husband. Richard Ashworth, registered agent. She's been billing the HOA to fund her personal war against you." Every invoice told the story of escalation. Agricultural nuisance consultation, $2,500. Environmental compliance research, $3,000. Legal strategy development, $4,200. Each harassment campaign funded by her neighbor's dues. "But wait, there's more," Eleanor continued, channeling her inner prosecutor. "The BMW lease? Also through Ashworth Property Solutions. She's charging the HOA management fees to cover her car payments." Sarah set her coffee down hard. "She's stealing from her own neighbors." $23,000 over 18 months, Eleanor confirmed. Pure embezzlement. But the real kicker was buried in the insurance documents. Eleanor had somehow obtained Brenda's BMW lease agreement. Don't ask how retired accountants get these things. "Personal vehicle lease," she read. "Specifically prohibits commercial or business use. Violation results in immediate lease termination and full financial liability." The pieces clicked like tumblers in a lock. Every time Brenda drove that BMW on official HOA business surveillance operations, harassment campaigns, equipment blockades, she was violating her lease agreement. "If that car gets damaged during any of her HOA activities, she's screwed," Eleanor explained. "No insurance coverage, no lease protection, complete financial disaster." I started laughing, actually laughing. The woman who'd been terrorizing me for months had built herself a perfect trap. "There's one final nail in her coffin," Eleanor said. "HOA bylaws require competitive bidding for any contract over $1,000. She never put these services out for bid. That's breach of fiduciary duty." Sarah leaned back in her chair. "So she's embezzling money, committing insurance fraud, and violating her legal duties to the community. While using the stolen money to harass Jake," Eleanor added. "It's criminal conspiracy with a paper trail." The morning sun streamed through our kitchen window, illuminating the evidence spread across the table. For months, I'd been playing defense. Now I realized the game had completely changed. "What's our next move?" Sarah asked. "We document everything and prepare for the annual HOA meeting," Eleanor said. "When homeowners see how much of their money she's wasted on her personal vendetta, they'll demand her head on a platter." I thought about harvest season approaching, about my cameras recording everything, about Brenda's BMW sitting like a financial time bomb in her driveway. "She's going to keep escalating," I said. "People facing prison time and bankruptcy get desperate." Eleanor smiled like a grandmother planning Christmas surprises. "Let her escalate. Every move she makes now just adds to her criminal charges." The sweet smell of justice mixed with autumn air drifting through our open windows. Brenda thought she was hunting me. Turns out she'd been digging her own grave all along, and I had the perfect shovel to help her finish the job. Friday afternoon, my kitchen became mission control for the most satisfying revenge plot in Millbrook County history. Martha Hendricks arrived first, her agricultural law expertise leading the charge. Eleanor Walsh brought her forensic accounting wizardry and a box of organized evidence that would make FBI investigators weep with joy. Bill Morrison, county extension agent, came armed with farming practice documentation and 40 years of dealing with suburban nonsense. "Gentlemen and ladies," Martha announced, spreading legal documents across my kitchen table, We're about to conduct a masterclass in how proper documentation destroys entitled idiots. The smell of Sarah's fresh-baked cookies mixed with the sweet anticipation of justice as we assembled our case. Eleanor took point on financial analysis. $23,000 in fraudulent expenses, but I found more digging deeper. Landscaping contracts to Brenda's nephew, without competitive bidding, another $8,000. Consulting fees for services never rendered $4,000 more. Total embezzlement? Martha asked. $35,000 stolen from homeowners to fund personal vendettas and family enrichment. Bill Morrison whistled low. That's felony territory in any state. Martha opened her laptop. Here's what we know legally. Agricultural interference, multiple violations. Environmental fraud, federal charges pending. Embezzlement, state felony. Insurance fraud, another felony. She's looking at serious prison time. But our secret weapon was my documentation system. 6 months of security cameras, time-stamped activity logs, weather correlations, photographic evidence of every harassment incident. I'd accidentally built a prosecutor's dream case. Jake, this documentation is professional grade, Martha said, reviewing my files. Most farmers keep maybe 10% of this detail. You've got everything. My extension agent always said document everything in farm disputes, I explained, remembering that advice from years ago. Seemed like overkill then. It's prosecution gold now, Martha confirmed. Sarah joined us with a fresh pot of coffee and strategic insight. The annual HOA meeting is next Thursday. All homeowners required to attend for budget approval. Perfect timing, Eleanor said. Budget meetings mean financial transparency requirements. We present the embezzlement evidence when everyone's focused on money. Bill provided the agricultural expertise angle. I'll prepare a presentation on modern farming safety standards, environmental compliance records, and agricultural protection laws. Show the community that Jake's operation exceeds all requirements. Martha outlined our legal strategy. We file comprehensive criminal complaints Monday morning. Agricultural harassment, environmental fraud, embezzlement, insurance fraud. Let law enforcement build the criminal case while we prepare civil recovery. The technology advantage belonged to my 17-year-old son, Mike, who'd been quietly documenting Brenda's social media campaign. Dad, I've got screenshots of every false post, every fake environmental claim, every harassment campaign she organized. Can you create a video compilation? I asked. Already done. Set to music and everything. It's beautiful, shows her escalating from reasonable complaints to complete lunacy. Eleanor had identified our coalition of concerned homeowners. 43 residents are asking questions about HOA finances. They know something's wrong but don't have details. When they see the evidence, they'll demand action. The insurance angle was our secret weapon. Martha had discovered that Brenda's BMW usage during harassment campaigns voided multiple coverage types: comprehensive, collision, and liability. If that car gets damaged during any HOA-related activity, she's personally liable for everything. How personally liable? Sarah asked. $40,000 BMW, plus damages to whatever she hits, plus legal liability for any injuries. Complete financial ruin. Bill brought up community psychology. Rural communities don't tolerate theft, especially stealing from neighbors. Once homeowners understand she used their money to harass Jake, social pressure will be brutal. We planned our media strategy around Tom Onyx at the local newspaper. He's been following this story, understands the agricultural angle, and has contacts at regional papers. When we expose the financial fraud, it'll get coverage. Martha advised patience with our evidence reveal. Let her keep escalating through next week. Every desperate move she makes adds criminal charges and alienates more homeowners. The beautiful trap was almost complete. Brenda thought she was fighting one farmer. She was actually about to face her entire community, law enforcement, insurance investigators, and federal prosecutors simultaneously. There's one more element, I said, thinking about harvest timing. My final corn harvest is scheduled for the day before the HOA meeting. If past patterns hold, she'll try something dramatic during harvest operations. With all our cameras rolling and law enforcement already investigating, Martha smiled. Perfect. Eleanor organized our evidence into presentation format: financial charts, timeline of harassment, documentation of fraud schemes. This will take 20 minutes to present and destroy her completely. The autumn sun was setting over my cornfields as our war council concluded. The sweet smell of ripening grain mixed with anticipation of harvest, both agricultural and personal. Sarah walked our allies to their cars while I stood on the porch, looking across my land toward Brenda's subdivision. Tomorrow would bring the final week of this conflict. "You ready for this?" Sarah asked, joining me. "Been ready since she first set up that checkpoint. Time to show this entitled suburbanite how country justice works." The stage was set, evidence assembled, allies positioned. Now we just had to wait for Brenda to walk into the trap she'd built herself. Monday morning, Brenda went full sabotage mode. I discovered it at 5 a.m. when my security system started blaring alerts. Someone had tried to disable my cameras. The metallic scraping of ladder against barn wall echoed in the pre-dawn darkness as I investigated. My backup battery-powered trail cameras, the ones I'd hidden as insurance, had captured everything. Brenda, 3 a.m., dressed in dark clothing, attempting to spray paint my primary security cameras. What she didn't know was that I'd installed redundant systems after Martha's advice about desperate people doing desperate things. Every camera she thought she'd disabled had a backup. Every angle she'd tried to block had an alternate view, the acrid smell of spray paint mixed with morning dew as I reviewed the footage. She'd spent 2 hours trying to create a blind spot for whatever she was planning next. By noon, her next move became clear. Motor oil again, but this time she'd gotten creative. Instead of just pouring it near my equipment, she'd created what looked like a legitimate spill trail leading from my tractor to the subdivision's storm drain. The environmental theater was Oscar-worthy. She'd even scattered some dead fish near the drain and taken photos for her Facebook campaign. Agricultural pollution killing our local wildlife. Chemical contamination from industrial farming operations. Within hours, she'd called 3 different agencies, county environmental, state water quality, and federal EPA reporting massive agricultural chemical spills threatening groundwater supplies. But here's where her desperation showed. The oil trail was too perfect, too obviously staged. Real equipment leaks create irregular patterns based on machinery movement and ground slope. Her Hollywood version looked like someone had carefully poured oil in a straight line while following a blueprint. My trail cameras had documented the entire 4 a.m. production, including her placing the dead fish she'd apparently bought from the grocery store. The receipt was probably still in her BMW. Tuesday brought escalation to harassment of my family. Someone had sent anonymous letters to the school board claiming Sarah had conflicts of interest teaching children while married to an environmental criminal. The letters, written on HOA letterhead, demanded Sarah's immediate termination for associating with agricultural terrorists and promoting toxic farming propaganda in our schools. Sarah found out when Principal Rodriguez called her at lunch. "Sarah, I've got some nonsense here about your husband being an environmental terrorist. Want to explain what's happening?" "Tom, it's our HOA president trying to destroy my husband's farm through false accusations. She's facing criminal charges for harassment and embezzlement." "Ah. Yeah, we get these suburban drama situations sometimes. Don't worry, your job's safe. But document everything for your legal case." Wednesday morning brought Brenda's most desperate gambit yet. I found professional-looking signs posted throughout the subdivision. Community safety alert, toxic agricultural operations. Residents advised to avoid outdoor activities during farming operations. Report symptoms to HOA immediately. She'd created fake health warnings about normal farming activities. The signs included a phone number for reporting agricultural poisoning symptoms and threatened legal action against anyone who removed the official safety notices. My neighbor Jim called, laughing. "Jake, you seen these crazy signs? Brenda's telling people your corn dust is toxic. Got 3 neighbors asking if they should evacuate during your harvest." The community reaction split predictably. Newer residents, already primed by months of Brenda's propaganda, were genuinely concerned. Longtime locals were furious about being treated like idiots. Mrs. Patterson, the 40-year resident, had apparently confronted Brenda directly. "I told that woman that if farming was toxic, half this county would be dead by now. She's lost her damn mind." But Brenda's social media campaign reached fever pitch. Her Facebook group had grown to 80 members, all sharing increasingly hysterical posts about chemical warfare and agricultural terrorism. Her latest post included photos of normal farm dust with dramatic captions, "Toxic clouds threatening our children. When will authorities stop this madness?" Share to save lives. The comment section was a battlefield between newer residents demanding action and longtime locals defending reality. Several people had shared scientific articles about agricultural dust, safety standards, and environmental compliance. Thursday afternoon, I got the call I'd been expecting. Deputy Martinez with an update on the criminal investigation. Jake, your neighbor just upgraded herself to federal terrorism charges, filing false reports about chemical weapons, creating public panic about agricultural operations, and something called agro-terrorism threats. Agro-terrorism? That's a real thing? Post 9/11 law about threatening agricultural infrastructure. She claimed your farm was conducting chemical attacks on the community. Homeland Security is now involved. Homeland Security. Brenda's fake environmental emergency had triggered federal anti-terrorism protocols. The autumn air carried the scent of corn ready for final harvest as I processed this information. Tomorrow was my last harvest run before the annual HOA meeting. If patterns held, Brenda would make her final desperate move during harvest operations. But now she wasn't just facing local harassment charges. She was facing federal terrorism investigation by agencies that don't appreciate false alarms about chemical attacks. The smell of ripening grain mixed with the sweet satisfaction of watching someone destroy themselves through their own stupidity. 24 hours until harvest. 48 hours until the HOA meeting that would end this war. Time to see just how spectacularly Brenda could self-destruct. Friday morning, final harvest day, arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that makes farmers' hearts sing. The sweet smell of corn ready for cutting mixed with diesel fuel as I prepped my combine harvester for the last run of the season. Brenda had other plans. At 6 a.m., I found my access road completely blocked by her BMW parked sideways across the entrance. Not just blocking strategically positioned so I couldn't drive around it without risking damage to both vehicles. She sat in the driver's seat, engine running, windows up, talking on her phone. Even from 50 yards away, I could see the manic energy in her gestures. This woman had passed desperate and entered full breakdown territory. My security cameras were rolling as I approached her vehicle. The crunch of gravel under my boots seemed extra loud in the morning stillness. "Ma'am, you're blocking my access road," I called through her window. She rolled it down just enough to talk. "I'm documenting unsafe agricultural practices for federal investigators. This road is temporarily closed for public safety." "This is my private easement. You're trespassing. We'll see what Homeland Security says about your chemical weapons operation." Chemical weapons. She'd gone completely off the deep end. "Ma'am, I'm asking you to move your vehicle so I can conduct normal farming operations." "Not happening. I'm protecting this community from agricultural terrorism." The irony was beautiful. In her desperate attempt to stop my harvest, she was committing the exact crime she'd been falsely accusing me of: interference with agricultural operations. I pulled out my phone and called Deputy Martinez. "Jake here. My access road's blocked by the HOA president. She's claiming authority to shut down farming operations. We'll be right out. Don't engage with her." While waiting for law enforcement, I watched Brenda's BMW like a hawk. She was live streaming on Facebook, narrating her heroic stand against agricultural terrorism to her online audience. "I'm here protecting our community from toxic farming operations," she announced to her phone. "This man refuses to comply with safety regulations. Someone has to take a stand." The comments on her live stream were brutal. Even her supporters were questioning whether blocking roads was legal. Several people pointed out that interfering with farming was a serious crime. Deputy Martinez arrived with backup, 2 patrol cars, and what looked like a supervisor. The smell of coffee and authority filled the morning air as they approached the situation. "Ma'am, you need to move your vehicle immediately," Martinez announced. "You're committing criminal interference with agricultural operations." "I have authority as HOA president to protect community safety." "Ma'am, HOA authority doesn't extend to blocking public easements or interfering with agricultural operations. Move your vehicle now or face arrest." That's when Brenda made her fatal mistake. Instead of moving, she accelerated. Not forward or backward to clear the road, she drove straight at my combine harvester parked nearby, claiming later she was documenting the dangerous machinery threatening our community. The sickening crunch of luxury car meeting agricultural steel echoed across the subdivision. Her BMW's front end crumpled against my harvester's corn head attachment like aluminum foil meeting a brick wall. The impact triggered every security camera I'd installed. Multiple angles captured the deliberate collision, her face clearly visible through the windshield, hands gripping the steering wheel as she drove into my equipment. She immediately jumped out, screaming about being attacked by agricultural machinery while her BMW leaked coolant onto the gravel. Steam rose from her destroyed engine as she demanded the deputies arrest me for assault with farm equipment. "Ma'am," Deputy Martinez said with superhuman patience, "you drove your vehicle into stationary farm equipment. Multiple cameras recorded you accelerating into the harvester. He positioned that machine to attack me. The harvester hadn't moved in 12 hours. My cameras proved it." Within minutes, Brenda's situation went from bad to catastrophic. Her insurance company, already investigating commercial vehicle use violations, would deny coverage for this deliberate collision. Her BMW lease company would demand immediate payment for the totaled vehicle, roughly $40,000 she didn't have. The cherry on top? Her live stream had recorded everything. 80 Facebook followers watched her commit insurance fraud, agricultural interference, and vehicular assault in real time. Deputy Martinez was reading her rights when the tow truck arrived. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for criminal interference with agricultural operations, insurance fraud, and reckless endangerment." As they loaded her BMW onto the flatbed, the autumn sun glinted off the wreckage. The sweet smell of corn waiting for harvest mixed with the acrid odor of antifreeze and destroyed dreams. "Jake," Martinez said, "we'll need your camera footage for evidence. Already copied to 3 backup drives." The tow truck disappeared down the road, carrying $40,000 worth of Brenda's financial ruin. Tomorrow's HOA meeting would reveal the $35,000 she'd embezzled. Federal charges were pending. Her husband's business was under investigation. I climbed into my combine harvester and started the engine. The diesel rumble sounded like victory as I began my final harvest of the season. In the distance, Meadowbrook Estates looked peaceful for the first time in months. Saturday evening, the Millbrook Community Center buzzed with more energy than it had seen since the county fair. The annual HOA meeting typically drew maybe 30 residents for boring budget discussions. Tonight, 127 showed up, every single homeowner in Meadowbrook Estates. The smell of community center coffee mixed with tension as people filed in. Folding chairs creaked under the weight of anticipation. Local newspaper reporter Tom Onyx sat up in the corner with his camera, sensing this would be more than routine HOA business. Brenda arrived in an Uber, her BMW still wrapped around a tow truck somewhere. She'd made bail but looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Her perfect hair was disheveled, her designer clothes wrinkled, her usual commanding presence replaced by desperate defiance. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, attempting to call the meeting to order, "we're here to discuss the agricultural terrorism threatening our community." The room erupted, neighbors shouting questions about embezzlement, about federal charges, about her car insurance fraud. The chaos was beautiful. Eleanor Walsh stood up, all 73 years of her radiating righteous fury. "Brenda Ashworth, before we discuss anything else, the homeowners demand an explanation for $35,000 in fraudulent expenses. That's privileged financial information. It's our money you stole." Jim Martinez, my farming neighbor, wasn't having any of her corporate speak. Eleanor took control, spreading financial documents across the front table like a prosecutor presenting evidence. "Ladies and gentlemen, your HOA president has been embezzling your dues to fund a personal harassment campaign." The numbers were devastating. $15,000 to her husband's company for legal consultation, $8,000 to her nephew's landscaping business without competitive bidding, $12,000 in fraudulent management fees covering her BMW payments. Every escalation in her harassment of Jake Hartwell corresponded with another fake invoice, Eleanor explained. "She literally used your money to pay for her obsession." Homeowner after homeowner stood up with questions. How long had this been going on? What other contracts were fraudulent? Why hadn't the board stopped this? Martha Hendricks, my attorney, addressed the legal implications. As of this morning, Mrs. Ashworth faces federal charges for agricultural terrorism, environmental fraud, insurance fraud, and embezzlement. The FBI has frozen accounts associated with Ashworth Property Solutions. The room fell silent. FBI involvement made this real. Then came my moment. I stood up with a laptop and projector, 6 months of documentation ready to tell the complete story. "Folks, I'd like to show you what really happened here." The 20-minute presentation was devastating. time-stamped photos of every harassment incident, audio recordings of her threats, security footage of her pouring motor oil to fake environmental contamination, her own Facebook posts growing increasingly unhinged. But the finale was yesterday's BMW incident. Multiple camera angles showed her deliberate collision with my harvester, her face clearly visible as she accelerated into stationary farm equipment. She live-streamed this on Facebook, I explained as her own video played on the community center screen. 80 people watched her commit insurance fraud in real time. The room was dead quiet except for the audio of Brenda's voice claiming she was protecting the community from agricultural terrorism. When the video ended, homeowner Janet Peterson stood up. "Brenda, you used our money to destroy your own car, attacking a farmer who's been here 80 years?" "I was documenting dangerous—" "You're insane!" shouted Mike Williams from the back row. "You embezzled our dues and then committed suicide by tractor on live video." The motion to remove Brenda from all HOA positions passed 89-14. The vote to pursue criminal prosecution for embezzlement passed 76-22. A resolution supporting my farming rights passed unanimously. Even Brenda's remaining allies couldn't defend her anymore. But the evening's mic drop moment came when Deputy Martinez entered with paperwork. "Mrs. Ashworth, federal warrant for your arrest on agricultural terrorism charges. You're also being served with civil papers from your insurance company and BMW lease company, seeking immediate payment of $43,000 in damages." As they led her out in handcuffs for the second time in 2 days, she turned to face the room. "You'll regret this when his toxic farming poisons your children." The community burst into laughter. Actual laughter at a woman being arrested for federal terrorism charges. Tom Onyx got it all on camera, the embezzlement evidence, the community uprising, the final arrest. His article would run statewide, turning Brenda into a cautionary tale about suburban entitlement. After the deputies left, the remaining homeowners elected an interim board committed to financial transparency and agricultural cooperation. Someone suggested a community garden project. Others proposed a farmer's market in the common area. The smell of autumn air drifted through open doors as neighbors who'd been divided by Brenda's manufactured crisis began healing their community. Kids were already planning to visit my farm during next year's harvest. Sarah squeezed my hand as we walked to our truck. "Think it's really over?" I looked back at the community center, then across my cornfields where tomorrow's work waited. "Honey, it's been over since she decided to pick a fight with someone who documents everything." 3 months later, karma had delivered justice with interest. Brenda got 18 months in federal prison for agricultural terrorism, plus 2 years for embezzlement and insurance fraud. Her husband's consulting business collapsed, they lost their house to legal fees, and BMW garnished her wages for the next decade. Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor about entitled people learning consequences, but the real victory was watching our community heal. Eleanor Walsh's new HOA board recovered every stolen penny and cut dues 20% after eliminating Brenda's fraudulent contracts. My access road got a beautiful gravel upgrade paid for with recovered embezzlement money. The irony was perfect. Brenda's theft funded the exact road improvements she'd tried to prevent. The Agricultural Heritage Festival launched that October, right during harvest season. Kids from suburban families learned about corn production, equipment operation, and farm safety. Sarah developed educational programs now used county-wide. The sweet smell of kettle corn mixed with diesel exhaust as 3 generations connected over shared agricultural heritage. Property values actually increased once people realized authentic rural character was worth preserving. Several neighbors established conservation easements protecting farmland from future development. What Brenda claimed would destroy the community actually made it more valuable. My documentation system became legendary. The State Extension Service created an agricultural conflict toolkit based on my methods. Agricultural attorneys throughout the Midwest cite Hartwell versus Ashworth when defending farmers against suburban harassment. Martha Hendricks now specializes in agricultural protection law, using my case as precedent. The media attention lasted months. Agricultural publications featured my story nationwide. Documentary filmmakers called about rural-suburban integration issues. Tom Onyx's investigative series won state journalism awards and prompted legislative hearings about HOA oversight. But my favorite outcome was personal. Sarah and I started hosting farm-to-table dinners in our barn, connecting suburban families with local agriculture. The very people Brenda claimed to protect became our biggest supporters and friends. Last month, Mrs. Patterson brought her granddaughter for harvest tours. "Jake, this little one wants to be a farmer when she grows up. Says your corn maze is better than Disney World. That's when you know you've won, when the next generation chooses agriculture over suburbia." The community dinners became monthly traditions. The sound of laughter mixing with combine harvesters created a soundtrack of successful integration. Kids who'd been scared of dangerous farm equipment now climb all over my tractors during open house days. 1 year later, a farmer from Oregon visited with copies of my documentation system. "Jake, your case gave us hope that small operations can fight entitled developers and win." Word had spread through agricultural networks about successful resistance to suburban overreach. My story became a template for farmers facing similar harassment. The legal precedent strengthened agricultural protection laws across 3 states. New legislation requires agricultural notification in development contracts and enhances right-to-farm protections. Brenda's harassment campaign accidentally created stronger farmer rights than existed before. Standing in my fields this harvest season, watching suburban kids help load corn trucks while their parents learn about agricultural sustainability, I realized this story was always bigger than one crazy HOA president. It was about preserving farming heritage in an urbanizing world, about communities choosing cooperation over manufactured conflict, about the power of patience, documentation, and legal knowledge when facing institutional bullying. The autumn air carries the scent of ripening corn and the satisfaction of battles won through preparation rather than anger. Sarah joins me on the porch each evening, watching sunset over fields that will feed families and teach children for generations to come. Sometimes she asks if I miss the excitement of fighting Brenda's harassment. "Honey," I always answer, "the best revenge isn't fighting crazy people. It's building something beautiful while documenting their self-destruction." The Scholarship Fund helps 3 local kids study agriculture each year. The festival brings 5,000 visitors annually. The conservation easements protect 800 acres of farmland. Brenda's theft money continues generating positive outcomes she never imagined. Next week, I'm speaking at the State Agricultural Conference about documentation strategies for farmer-developer conflicts. The title, How One HOA Karen's BMW Collision Created Better Agricultural Protection Laws. Because sometimes, the best stories write themselves when entitled people meet immovable objects like property rights, proper documentation, and patient farmers who know how to harvest justice. Got your own HOA nightmare story? Share it in the comments. You'll be amazed how many neighbors deal with similar entitled drama. And subscribe to HOA Stories for more tales of ordinary people defeating petty tyrants through smart strategy, solid documentation, and community support. Justice tastes sweetest when it's properly documented.
Thanks for hanging out with us on HOA Stories, where the HOA Karens meet their match. If this story had you cheering or cringing, go ahead and like the video, drop a comment with your reaction, and hit subscribe so you're ready for the next wild HOA tale.